Have you ever felt that gut-wrenching feeling when something inside tells you that something is terribly wrong? Today, I'm about to reveal the shocking signs she just cheated on you, the things no one dares to tell you. You'll hear about the subtle changes, the late-night secrets, the distance that suddenly creeps into her heart, and how to spot the truth before it's too late. Every moment you ignore these signs could be costing you your peace, your trust, and your future. Stay with me till the end, because what I share today might just open your eyes to what's really happening behind closed doors. Comment below where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to never miss these truths that everyone else hides from you. You might have noticed it before, that subtle shift in her energy, the way she no longer looks at you the same, the way her words feel distant, almost rehearsed. At first you convince yourself it's just stress, work, or maybe she's having a bad day, but deep down your intuition nags at you. It's that quiet voice you can't ignore, the one telling you that something has changed. Emotional distance doesn't happen overnight. It creeps in slowly, leaving small gaps that widen if you don't pay attention. And here's the thing. Men often dismiss it, telling themselves it's normal, that women have moods. But the truth is, sudden emotional distance is rarely just about mood. It's about a withdrawal of connection, a subtle retreat that often signals deeper choices being made elsewhere. You see, when someone cheats, the mind and heart begin to compartmentalize. They start to divide attention between you and someone else, often without realizing the effect it has on you. This division creates a kind of emotional invisibility. Your presence feels like a shadow in the room, no longer a priority. The texts that used to make your day now seem mechanical. The laughter that once came easily now feels hollow. It's not just absence. It's a transformation in the way she engages with life, with you, and with intimacy. A person withdrawing emotionally will cling less to shared moments and will respond less to your attempts to connect. It's subtle, but it's there, and it cannot be ignored. What makes this even more painful is that emotional distance is deeply personal. It's a betrayal of shared history, of trust, of the understanding that intimacy requires vulnerability. When she distances herself, it forces you to confront the reality that her inner world is now guarded. She might still speak to you, still act present, but the spark is gone. That spark, the feeling that you matter in her world, is the very thing that fuels connection and commitment. Once it dims, you begin to notice small patterns. She stops sharing her thoughts. She hesitates to make future plans. She seems preoccupied even when physically near. These are not coincidences. They are signals. Psychologically, this withdrawal is fascinating. Human beings are wired for attachment, for connection. When that attachment shifts, even slightly, it triggers a cascade of subtle signs. Less eye contact, shorter conversations, less warmth in gestures. Philosophically, we can see it as a moral reflection. Distance is the mind's quiet way of protecting itself while pursuing a desire that no longer aligns fully with the relationship. And while you might feel anger, sadness, or confusion, it is essential to approach this observation with clarity. Emotional distance doesn't lie. It doesn't exaggerate. It doesn't make excuses. It simply exists, and it tells a story you cannot afford to ignore. Many men make the mistake of waiting for grand betrayals, a text discovered, a confession extracted, before they act. But real insight lies in noticing the quiet moments, the subtle withdrawal, the change in rhythm. If she once celebrated your victories with you and now barely acknowledges them, if she used to laugh freely and now smiles politely, take note. If the conversations that once ran deep now feel like crossing a desert with no water in sight, your intuition is validating itself. This is where the first warning sign resides. The emotional distance that precedes many choices, including infidelity. It is also important to recognize your own role in noticing and responding to these changes. You must cultivate presence, awareness, and honesty, not only with her, but with yourself. Do not ignore the silence. It is not empty. Do not dismiss the coldness. It is a message. Ask yourself, are you seeing what is truly happening, or are you telling yourself comforting stories to protect your heart? Because the longer you avoid these signs, the more entrenched the pattern becomes. Emotional distance is not reversible through distraction or denial. It requires recognition, confrontation, and sometimes hard decisions. And yet, understanding this doesn't have to lead to despair. Awareness is power. The moment you recognize emotional distance as a deliberate signal rather than random behavior, you regain agency. You begin to observe patterns, notice the inconsistencies, and reclaim your right to clarity and truth. This is not about controlling her or projecting fear. It's about seeing reality and protecting your emotional integrity. By acknowledging the emotional gaps, you set the stage for truth. Either the truth that can heal your relationship, or the truth that guides you to step away with dignity. So, as you watch, reflect, and feel, remember this: emotional distance is not subtle in its intent. It whispers, it pulls back, it creates a vacuum where trust used to live. Pay attention. Listen to the signs that appear in quiet moments, in brief interactions, in gestures that once meant everything. They are not coincidences, they are messages. And the greatest act of self-respect is to see them clearly, understand their implications, and act, not out of anger, but out of wisdom. Because here's the closing truth I want you to take with you. When emotional distance appears, it is both a warning and an invitation. A warning to pay attention, to question what is happening behind closed doors, and an invitation to reclaim clarity, dignity, and self-respect. The choice to ignore it may cost you more than you can imagine. The choice to acknowledge it may save you from heartbreak you never saw coming. And that choice, your choice, is the beginning of understanding, the beginning of action, and the beginning of truth. You might not notice it at first. A text deleted too quickly, a phone that's suddenly always face down, a password you never knew she had. At first you tell yourself it's normal. Everyone values privacy, right? But deep down, your intuition is already asking questions. There's a difference between privacy and secrecy, and often, secrecy leaves a trail. It's in the way she jumps when a notification comes in, how she quietly locks her screen when you approach. These small, almost innocent, seeming actions aren't random. They are the whispers of a mind that has started to divide attention between you and someone else. And that division, as subtle as it is, begins to create cracks in trust that, over time, widen into chasms. Communication is the lifeblood of connection. When she starts hiding messages, avoiding calls, or lying about interactions, it's a signal that the emotional investment has shifted. It's rarely about a single moment of betrayal. It's about a gradual allocation of attention, energy, and affection elsewhere. You may notice that she suddenly becomes defensive if you ask about her phone, or she insists that certain messages are nothing, but reacts as though the question itself is a threat. This defensiveness is not arbitrary. It is the mind's natural shield against exposure, a psychological reaction to the knowledge that her actions do not align with the truth she once held sacred in the relationship. Psychologically, human beings are wired to hide what they fear losing control over. When a person cheats, even if subconsciously, their behavior shifts. There is a need to manage perception, to curate the story you see versus the story that is actually unfolding. You might notice new social media habits, likes on old photos, interactions with someone whose name you don't recognize, a sudden interest in private chats. While it may seem trivial, these patterns are often deliberate, protective mechanisms, allowing her to maintain access to a life she no longer fully shares with you. And yet, they leave breadcrumbs. if you are willing to observe them carefully. This secretive behavior is not just technological, it permeates her routines, her responses, even her body language. She may suddenly have new routines that don't make sense, excuses for late nights that sound rehearsed, or vague explanations for activities that were once open and shared. The subtleties matter, the hesitation in her speech, the avoidance of eye contact, the deflection when you ask questions. Philosophically, this is where ethics meets psychology. The human mind tries to rationalize actions that contradict commitment, creating layers of concealment that protect her desire for freedom while avoiding confrontation. As you witness these changes, it becomes clear that secrecy is the mind's way of negotiating guilt, desire, and fear. Many men miss this entirely because they are focused on tangible betrayals, proof they can hold in their hands. But the real signal is in the intangible, the feeling that something is hidden, the anxiety that didn't exist before, the sense that access to her world is subtly being restricted. The mind perceives it, even when the eyes cannot fully see. This is why your instincts are so important. They are tuned to patterns of connection that, once broken, cannot be ignored. Secretive behavior is rarely about convenience. It is about redirection, a shift in priorities that is as much emotional as it is practical. It is essential, however, to approach this observation with clarity and not paranoia. Not every secret is a betrayal, but when secrecy consistently aligns with other signs, emotional distance, changes in intimacy, you have to acknowledge the pattern. Understanding this is an intellectual exercise as much as it is emotional. Observe without judgment, collect the signs without desperation, and let the evidence speak louder than denial. The person who cheats is not always brazen. Often they are careful, calculating, and subtle. But subtlety leaves traces that a careful mind, tuned by experience and intuition, can follow. At the core, this is about boundaries and integrity. You have a right to clarity, to truth, and to emotional security. When she begins to hide communication, she is signaling that those boundaries may be compromised. This is not just about phones or social media. It is about respect, honesty, and the foundational trust that allows love to flourish. Philosophically, it is a reflection on human nature. We are social beings, wired for connection, yet capable of deception when desire conflicts with duty. Secretive behavior exposes the tension between what is expected in a committed partnership and what the individual seeks privately. Understanding this is liberating. When you recognize the hidden signs, you gain insight into what is happening before a full-blown betrayal surfaces. Awareness is not about confrontation alone. It is about self-preservation, about choosing when to address the truth and when to protect your heart. Observing secrecy without immediate judgment allows you to act with authority, rather than desperation, giving you the power to reclaim your peace. This is the moment when insight transforms into action. You no longer wait for proof. You notice patterns, see inconsistencies, and respect the truth that presents itself in the quiet, concealed moments of daily life. So as you reflect, understand this. Secrecy is never neutral. It is always intentional. It is a signal, a choice, a reflection of shifting priorities. If you see it, feel it, and recognize it, you are not merely witnessing behavior. You are receiving information about where your place truly lies in her life, and the courage to act on that insight defines not just the health of the relationship, but the strength of your character. Because here's the final truth I want you to hold on to. Hidden messages, secretive routines, and concealed communication are more than just behaviors. They are the quiet echoes of choices that affect your life profoundly. Recognize them, understand their meaning, and let that awareness guide your decisions. When you act on these insights with clarity and integrity, you honor yourself, reclaim your power, and ensure that your heart is never left in the shadows of someone else's divided attention. You might start noticing it almost imperceptibly at first, the way she suddenly dresses differently, or the new attention she gives to her hair, her skin, her presence. At first, you tell yourself it's harmless. Maybe she's just feeling confident or wants to treat herself. But when you combine this with emotional distance and secretive behavior, a pattern emerges. It's not vanity alone. It's a signal, a subtle redirection of energy and attention. Human psychology shows us that when someone begins to cheat, their desire to impress shifts from the person who matters most to the world outside. Appearance becomes a form of communication, a silent way of testing attraction and attention in places that don't include you. The mind doesn't operate in isolation. It seeks validation and reward, and when emotional or physical desires are redirected, behavior changes. You might notice new outfits that seem out of character, sudden interest in exercise, or grooming routines that weren't part of her normal life. At first, it may feel flattering, even confusing. She seems more alive, more vibrant, but not with you. And that's the crucial distinction. The energy, the effort, the intentionality, once invested in the relationship, now finds outlets elsewhere. Philosophically, this is a reflection of human desire. Attention is a currency, and when invested improperly, it speaks volumes about priorities and intentions. Intimacy follows a similar pattern. She may become suddenly more distant in private moments, or paradoxically, more eager, but inconsistently. These shifts are rarely random. Psychology teaches us that sexual interest is closely tied to emotional connection. When that connection divides, the signals become irregular, confusing, and often manipulative, whether consciously or unconsciously. You may feel moments of closeness, only to be met with detachment shortly after. This creates an emotional turbulence designed to protect the hidden relationship while still maintaining a semblance of normalcy with you. It's subtle, painful, and profoundly disorienting. Some men ignore these signs, telling themselves that change is normal, that people grow, that routine life requires adaptation. And while growth and evolution are natural, abrupt and selective changes, especially when paired with secrecy and emotional withdrawal, are rarely coincidental. These changes act as psychological breadcrumbs. They point to a shift in energy and loyalty that the person may not even admit to themselves, yet cannot fully hide. Your responsibility is to notice them, to observe without denial, and to confront reality with clarity rather than wishful thinking. It is also essential to understand the emotional mechanics at play. When someone cheats, cognitive dissonance occurs. They want the excitement or connection of another person while preserving the safety or comfort of the existing relationship. The mind resolves this tension by altering behavior, often unconsciously. Changes in appearance, new routines, and irregular intimacy are the external manifestations of this internal conflict. Philosophically, it is a reminder that desire is neither inherently good nor evil, but when misaligned with commitment, it becomes destructive. Observing these behaviors provides insight into the moral and emotional choices being made. Notice, too, the timing and consistency of these changes. Does she suddenly become more attentive around friends or in social settings but withdraw when alone with you? Does she make an effort to impress others while giving minimal effort in private? These patterns are critical. They reveal not just where her attention is focused, but also the underlying psychology. The human desire for validation, the thrill of novelty, and the subtle thrill of deception. Understanding these patterns intellectually allows you to separate emotion from observation, clarity from confusion, and truth from denial. Many men fail to recognize these changes because they are emotionally invested and desperately hope for explanations that align with comfort rather than reality. But intelligence in relationships is about reading the signs, not rationalizing them away. By paying attention to appearance and intimacy patterns, you are essentially decoding the unspoken language of desire, loyalty, and betrayal. These are not trivial details. They are signals that your emotional security, trust, and future are at stake. The subtleties matter because the grand truths of infidelity often manifest first in the small, quiet changes of daily life. Recognizing these shifts also allows you to reclaim power over your own emotional state. When you understand that changes in appearance and intimacy are not compliments to you, but signs of attention elsewhere, you stop being manipulated by fleeting affection or inconsistent desire. You gain clarity. You learn to observe without being consumed by denial. And most importantly, you prepare yourself to make choices that protect your dignity, self-respect, and emotional well-being. At the heart of this observation is a simple truth. Actions always reveal intent, even when words do not. Emotional energy, attention, and effort are investments. When the allocation of these investments changes abruptly, you are receiving vital information about the state of your relationship. Ignoring these signals is a choice, one that can cost you more than you realize. Observing them, understanding them, and acting accordingly is not just wise, it is necessary. So as you reflect on what you've seen and felt, remember this: changes in appearance and intimacy are not random. They are messages, signals, and reflections of choices being made beyond your view. They call for awareness, courage, and action. Pay attention, trust your instincts, and honor your emotional intelligence. Because the greatest gift you can give yourself is the clarity to see the truth, the wisdom to understand it, and the courage to act before the subtle signs become irreversible.